And I will call this meeting to order. We've corrected the error that was there, and I want to welcome all of you, and I especially Julie Gonyou, who's joining us from the county for a presentation. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Councillor Rowe, you need to unmute.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, for bylaw 2583 due to proximity.
Thank you. Seeing no other declarations, would you read the motion concerning the minutes, please, Diane?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. The motion reads, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that the minutes of the regular planning meeting of Council dated Monday, March the 22nd, 2021 be adopted.
Any questions? If not, would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Krebitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynne?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Resolution carries.
Because I am going to speak as part of the delegation, I'm going to turn the chairing of the meeting over to Deputy Mayor Marks. So I'm asking him to take over the chair at this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll give you a second to take your mayor's hat off, put on your Elgin County Police Services Board hat. I guess we're ready, and Julie, you're here. I'd like to welcome you both, and you're going to give us a presentation tonight. So a warm welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to begin, and then Julie is going to take over partway through. So just so you know who I am, obviously, and I am the chair of the Elgin Group Police Services Board. I'm joined by the vice chair, Ida McCollum, who is the representative from the West Elgin area, and Julie Gonyou, who's the secretary administrator of our board. I want to thank you for having us. We're here to gather your feedback on the ministry's proposed changes to the Ontario Provincial Police Board composition. Next slide. The Ministry of the Solicitor General sent notice to all municipal governments and First Nations that Ontario Provincial Police Detachment Boards under the Community Safety and Policing Act are to be developed and submitted in the next 2.5 months. While the Community Safety and Policing Act has not yet been enacted, it's anticipated that it will come into effect in early January 2022. The Community Safety and Policing Act is aimed at providing all municipalities who are receiving Ontario Provincial Police municipal policing with greater civilian governance by ensuring each municipality has the opportunity to present their local perspectives, needs, and priorities. It's anticipated that the Community Safety and Policing Act will also increase the responsiveness and transparency of OPP policing in these communities. Next slide. Municipalities are tasked with determining a preferred composition of their detachment board by submitting a proposal to the ministry. The ministry has made it very clear that we, the 6 municipalities served by the OPP in Elgin County, are required to work together to develop and submit one proposal detailing our board's composition moving forward. When we submit, we aren't required to identify the individuals, but must identify the number of seats each municipality will be allocated, the number of community representatives, and the number of provincial appointments. We've been cautioned that if we aren't able to reach consensus, the ministry will determine the composition of our board, and I suspect we all want to avoid that. The ministry launched this process on March 18th, 2021. Our proposal is due to the ministry on June 7th, 2021. We expect to receive a response from the ministry by the fall of 2021 for a January 2022 rollout. June 7th will be upon us very soon. Julie, Ida, and I will be visiting each of the local councils until the 3rd week of April. That would only leave us 4 weeks to obtain council resolutions and complete the application. We have a small but mighty board. Our 5-member board is comprised of one elected representative from Eastern Elgin. It alternates between the Township of Malahide and the municipality of Bayham. Currently, Bayham, Councillor Dan Froese from Bayham is serving for the East Elgin area. We have one elected representative from Central Elgin, which is myself. We have one community representative from West Elgin, appointed by the Township of Southold, the municipality of Dutton Dunwich, and the municipality of West Elgin, and that is Ida McCollum. And we have two provincial appointees, Dave Jenkins and Trudy Canellis. Elgin's Police Services Board was established in 2005. The county provides and administers the services to the board. Our board currently meets all of the minimum requirements of the proposal and is what I would consider a high-functioning board. It is certainly a board that I'm proud to serve on. Last year, we were invited to participate in roundtable discussions, and we quickly discovered that our board was the envy of many of our neighbors. For example, our neighbors in Middlesex County, with the exception of the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc, who, like Elmer, has its own police service, has only one police services board in Thames Centre, and the remaining municipalities are not represented on that board. From my perspective, we are seeing this imposed change in board composition to ensure municipalities are working together, something we are proud of as a county, to having been doing it for 16 years. Our current composition of 5 strikes a balance between too few and too many. We don't have attendance issues. Our members engage in productive dialogue, engaging directly with the OPP leadership on critical issues facing our community. Our members understand their role, the protocols and expectations, and we're open to dialogue. Over the past 4 years, all members actively participate in the Ontario Police Services Board Association regional meetings. We're in Zone 6, and they attend seminars and conferences. Next slide. Whoop, thank you. We are visiting all municipal councils served by the OPP to gather feedback about whether there is an interest in maintaining status quo or adding representatives. Once we have visited all local councils, we will share this feedback with your council and propose a structure for the Elgin Police Services Board. We will seek your endorsement of the proposed structure, and Julie Gonyou, in her capacity as Secretary Administrator, will submit one application on our behalf. I will now turn things over to Julie to cover the remainder of the presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship, and Deputy Mayor Marks. Good evening, members of Central Elgin Council. The Police Services Board has fairly limited powers, so I thought I would just run through their jurisdiction first. The board participates in the selection of the detachment commander and generally determines objectives and priorities of the police service following consultation with the detachment commander. The PSB develops local priorities and policies following consultation, if required, and monitors the performance of the detachment commander. As well, the Police Services Board receives quarterly reports from the detachment commander. When considering representation on the board, it's also important, I think, that you consider your municipal contribution to the OPP service. And I would like to apologize, the information before you is incorrect and reflects baseline services. So the total OPP budget for 2020 should actually be $6,275,549. The percentages are correct. So from this pie chart, you'll see that Central Elgin's contribution is 34%, 2.13 million. Bayham contributes 15%, 922,000. West Elgin contributes 15%, 987,000. Southold contributes just over 10%, 614,000. Malahide contributes 17%, 1.03 million, and Dutton Dunwich close to 579,000. Try to advance the slide. There we go. As previously discussed by Mayor Martyn, the Elgin Group Police Services Board has 5 members. 2 provincial appointees, 2 elected officials, and 1 citizen appointee from Western Elgin. The new minimum requirements are a minimum of 5 members with no maximum. 20% of the board must be community representatives, and 20% of the board will be appointed by the province. So as Mayor Martyn indicated, we currently meet the minimum requirements. For our current 5-member board, our budget is detailed before you and totals $35,570. And we have prepared a couple of alternative models just for your consideration. And these are not presented to you as recommended options in any way. They're merely just conversation starters. So the first model that I'll present includes enhanced elected official and citizen representation. In this model, each municipality served by OPP has the opportunity to appoint an elected official, and Central Elgin, as well as Eastern Elgin and Western Elgin, would have the opportunity to appoint a citizen representative. The provincial appointees in this model remain at 2, but could be bumped up to 3, depending on how many municipalities were to opt to elect and to appoint an elected official. So the cost associated with an 11-member board escalates to $66,114. So it would require an additional investment of about $30,000. So the next model is kind of somewhere in the middle of what we currently have and the 11-member board, and it has 9 representatives. And this includes an elected official and citizen representative from Central Elgin, 1 Eastern Elgin official rotating between Bayham and Malahide, as well as 1 citizen representative from Eastern Elgin, 1 Western Elgin elected official alternating between Southold, West Elgin, and Dutton Dunwich, as well as 1 citizen representative from Western Elgin, and 2 provincial appointees, along with 1 citizen representative appointed at large. So the cost associated with a 9-member board is $58,000. So as you can imagine, there are dozens and dozens of different models that could be considered. And while this process does offer municipalities the opportunity to increase representation, it is really critically important to evaluate whether there's actually a need to change our current composition, potentially increase investment in the Police Services Board, or whether status quo, a model that's been in place since 2005, is currently meeting your community's needs. With that, I'll pass things back to Mayor Martyn for final comment, or Deputy Warden Marks.
I think we can pass it back to Deputy Warden Marks because he can certainly ask for questions and comments.
Great.
All right, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. I was remiss, I never welcomed your Vice Chair Ida, so welcome, Ida. Before I open it to for questions, I think I can make a statement. I did serve previously 4 years on the Police Services Board and actually was the chair, similar to Mayor Martyn. And we've had, before that, I remember when former Dave Rock was the chair. You know, my dad always used to say, if something isn't broke, don't try and fix it. And I really believe that this has served well since 2005. So we're going on 15, 16 years. So from Martyn, and what I kind of gathered from Mayor Martyn, she kind of indicated the same. So I will open the floor for questions, but I think it's a very fair system, has worked pretty well, but I don't want to lead anyone. I want everyone to have a say. If you want to get your hand up, please go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. So what I'm wondering is if the board is working effectively as it is, what would the extra members buy us? And since I have you here, can you tell us what the priorities are that the board has been discussing?
I don't want to discourage you from asking questions about the board, but I don't think that's the purpose tonight, Fiona. So probably better stay on course.
Part of it is is I don't know what the priorities are. So we're already paying one cost, and that's apparently effective right now. So again, I guess my main question is, with the extra members on the board, what more would that bring us for the increased cost?
I would probably quip it, bring in longer meetings, but I won't say that. I'll turn it over to Julie or Mayor Martyn to make a comment.
Julie, do you wish to speak to that?
Certainly. So I think there are, in our current 5-member board, there are some communities who don't have, who have to kind of wait their turn before they have a representative from their municipality on the board. So this opportunity would provide those municipalities with more direct participation on the board.
I think it's important, as we've said to the other ones that we've presented to, that it's important that they know who their member is, and that if they have concerns, that they need to let that member know, or any member of the board, but so that they can bring those concerns. And Fiona, it's usually whatever comes up. Certainly there was all the theft stuff going on up in when people were going to funerals. That was a major one that we dealt with, and speeding is another one that we've been dealing with quite a lot. Bylaw enforcement, it varies very much. Whatever people bring as serious concerns, and then the board directs the police, or ask them to look into this, or they offer to look into these things and then report back to us on how things are going. So the reports always tell us, like, they solved the funeral one, which was wonderful, and they solved the thefts. And I know they're monitoring the speeding, and that is an issue for all of us, I know.
I have a second question when I can get back in the rotation again.
Go ahead, continue on.
Just so very quickly, with those municipalities that don't have elected officials on the board, was there a reason why they didn't have one previously? Or was it size related? What was the reason?
Happy to
Oh,
try to
so-
take that.
Go ahead, Julie. I would assume you would have the history of that, yes.
Thank you. I don't actually have the history. It's been very hard to find. All I could find through our records was that there was consensus among the 6 municipalities that was the board composition, and everyone seemed happy with it. But another question that came up at another recent local meeting was the costs associated with the board, and how did those come about? And I have no information to support that either. So essentially, I think we can kind of start from scratch if needed, or rely on past practice.
I can probably add a bit there, Julie. I can remember when Dave Rock was chair. I believe Central Elgin has a permanent position, but we also pay a third of the budget. And that was the reasoning. And then the rest of them with the reduced, that's why they're willing to do the flipping. And having the 2 provincial reps kind of give balance to it also, you couldn't dominate. So simply, I think it was a good compromise, and it seems to have stood the test of time. So there is a bit of a history there why they did it. And I think that's where Central Elgin kind of got the nickname Crime Capital of Central Elgin County. But we do pay the largest share of the budget.
And you're right, Tom, because Malahide and Bayham together pay about the same amount we do, and Southold, Dunwich, and West Elgin pay about that 1/3 too. So that's why Central Elgin has one rep, the East have one rep, and the West have one rep, and then the 2 provincial appointees. And somehow I'm assuming West Elgin, Dunwich, and Southold agreed that they would have a community rep rather than a council member rep in order to make that balance, whereas Malahide and Bayham chose to have a council rep.
I'm quite sure if we offered only to pay 10 or 15% of the budget, we'd alternate, but I don't think anyone's taken us up on that. But, Colleen, I think you had a question?
Yes, thank you. I was just going to ask about the 3-year rotation term. If there was a concern, well, let me just back up for 1 second. So the current board sounds like it's functioning well, so I would tend to probably not change anything. But the 3-year alternating term for the couple of municipalities there, I just wondered if that was dictated by the CSPA or whether that was something that was internally arranged. Because if there's any opportunity, I guess, if I'm sure they still have a voice, even if they're not within that 3-year term. But if some sort of a shorter term would make more sense, then that could also be an option.
I believe the 3-year one was brought in because council elected officials were every 3 years at the time this was instituted. We did discuss this, and Julie's been trying to find some of the records. We did agree that we thought they should be 4-year terms, the same as council terms. It could be 2-year and 2-year to fit in the 4, but it's nice to have some cohesion in the board and not be constantly, you do have to go through training. The province has now established that we have to all take training. And so if you change them too often, it could be a bit onerous for that. I don't know. That's certainly something we could look at.
Further questions? Comments? Are you looking for us to make a decision on a recommendation tonight or do that in the future and pass it on?
Mr. Shipway is going to speak on that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is a resolution prepared so that the county would know where Central Elgin stands, but that's completely at the discretion of council.
Thank you. Well, are there any further questions? If not, we won't prolong the meeting. We'll get on with it. So I don't hear any questions. I'm going to thank the delegation for attending and bringing us the information. Allow Mayor Martyn to change hats, and Julie and Ida, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you very
Maybe,
much.
Tom, I think you should chair and ask for the resolution that Diane has.
All right, go ahead, Deputy Clerk.
Mr. Chair, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Wynne, seconded by Councillor Rowe, whereas Mayor Sally Martyn, Chair, Elgin Group Police Services Board, and Julie Gonyou, Secretary Administrator, Elgin Police Services Board, has provided Central Elgin Council a review of the Ontario Provincial Police Board composition on Monday, April the 12th, 2021. And whereas Central Elgin Council appreciates the review associated with the Community Safety and Policing Act 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Central Elgin supports maintaining the current composition of the Elgin Group Police Services Board, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the members of the Elgin Group Police Services Board.
All right, thank you for that. Is everyone clear on the motion? Deputy Clerk, please call the vote.
Certainly. Councillor Cook? Councillor Cook? Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Councillor Wynne?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes,
Mayor Martyn?
I was just checking to see if we would consider I had a conflict. I support the motion, but
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
okay.
Resolution carries.
All right, thank you. All right, I think our business is done. And welcome Mayor Martyn back to chair. And again, thank you, Julie and Ida. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom, for looking after that. We're moving on to correspondence needing action. We have an action item from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, and I will ask Diane to read the motion.
Madam Mayor, the motion reads, Moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that the current membership of the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority allocating one member each to the municipality of Central Elgin, the municipality of Middlesex Centre, the municipality of Thames Centre, the township of Malahide, and the township of Southold, and 2 members to the city of St. Thomas and 3 members to the city of London be maintained. And further, that the membership of the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority be reevaluated based on population data available prior to the member appointments following the municipal election in 2022.
Any question? Go ahead, Councillor Kravitz.
Yeah, just for some background information on this item, it was brought about due to the section 14 where they allocated the population base, and it was found that London's population did not adhere to having 3 members. And when after the next election, their membership will probably be reduced to the 2 members rather than the 3. So just as a reference, that's why this is brought about.
And also, I believe they will have to have 1 elected member because every council has to appoint 1 elected member, and Middlesex Centre will have to have an elected member instead of a community member.
Yes, that's correct.
Catfish is not in a problem this way, and I haven't brought it because we're all elected members representing our municipalities. So, Deputy Mayor Marks.
Hate to interrupt, but I just had a text from Councillor Karen. She's having internet problems. Could we send her a link to just call in? Her internet is acting up. Perhaps Mr. Shipway could do that. She's trying to get on, it just keeps freezing. It's frustrating. I've been there. Sorry to interrupt.
I will
agree.
re-forward. I will re-forward the invite.
Thank you.
The internet has not been working very well today. I had a hard time with the county meeting as well, the WebEx meeting that I was on. Thank you. We have to vote on this motion. Would you call the vote, please?
Yes. Councillor Cook, I'll call the name in case she's.
You can come back to her maybe at the end. Yep, she's coming in.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martyn.
Yes.
Resolution carries.
Are you able to get in now, Councillor Cook? Looked like she was on, but she's still muted, so I'm not sure.
Apparently that's the issue. She gets on and then it freezes and she's off. So wonder if she get a phone call.
The invite has both the phone connection and the other, so she should use the phone connection instead. Okay, moving on to correspondence for information. Is there any item there that anyone wishes to discuss or go ahead, Councillor Fair.
I would just like to break out the fire department one. I think that's very good if, if we could try and get items like that moved to capital expenditures for infrastructure, it would be very helpful for the fire departments all across Ontario and including our own.
And any other item that anyone wants to bring up? I think number 5, the Transport Canada thing that's a real celebration that it happened, and a real, I would like to commend Lloyd Perrin as they have for sticking with that for 10 years and finally getting it accomplished. And we went through more, you saw the list of requirements and tests and different companies that we went through to finally get that done. So we'll be making a more formal announcement eventually once we get our own protocols in place. But I think that's great news that finally did happen. And the Earth Board meeting, that's just an announcement. We will later appoint a voting member closer to the time, but that's just an announcement and anyone is welcome to attend that. It'll be obviously via Zoom. Okay, would you like to read the motion to take all of them together except number 4?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. The motion reads, moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Wynne, that correspondence items number 1 through number 9 inclusive, excluding number 4, be received as information and filed.
Call the vote, please.
Councillor Cook. Councillor Krebitz.
Yes.
Councillor Fair.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Wynne.
Yes.
Councillor Rowe.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes,
Resolution carries.
thank you. And now number 4,
I will need a seconder on that motion, Madam Mayor.
I was.
Fiona is seconding, or Dennis?
The motion reads, Madam Mayor. Moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Wynne, that correspondence received from the town of Hudson sent to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, seeking support for funding for fire departments be endorsed.
Any other comments? If not, I'll ask Diana to call the vote.
Councillor Cook.
She's come in by phone now. so-
Hi.
Welcome. We're looking at the fire department one. Karen, we're glad you finally were
okay.
able to get in.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Okay. Oh, my goodness.
Okay. Councillor Krebitz.
Yes.
Councillor Fair.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Wynne.
Yes.
Councillor Rowe.
Yes.
And Mayor Martin.
Yes,
Resolution carries.
thank you. We're now going to reports. So the Director of Infrastructure and Community Services, fees and charges, bylaw update, waste management. You have the report before you. Does anyone have any questions on the report or comments? Councillor Wynne.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Brooks. Just a question, a conversation I had with a couple of people recently, and couldn't believe that I didn't have the answer for it. So if you've bought a property since the residents have nominated what size of cart that they want. If you buy a property after that and you want to go to either a bigger or smaller bin, will you be charged, or do you get to make that change without this service fee because you didn't get to pick when the choice was given? Is my first question.
Go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Through you, Mayor Martin. The carts will start to be delivered here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Through the building department, we will do a tally of the new builds since we had taken the orders.
Oh,
and
sorry. It's not a new build. I'm talking existing homes. So if there's an existing home and so the current owner had requested a certain size bin, but now say after delivery or before or after delivery, that property sells and you now have a new property owner, but they don't want that size bin. They either want to go smaller or larger. I know there's a fee for doing that, but because you're the new property owner and you didn't have any say in the size of bin originally, are you also going to be charged because you don't want what size of bin is there?
the answer to that is yes. All deliveries or carts ordered after the rollout of this program will be subject to that delivery fee.
They will. Okay. And just a confirmation that those bins stay with the property, they don't go with the owner.
That's correct. Those bins or carts are the property of the municipality and they are to stay with the property, not move with the owner.
Okay, thank you. That was it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Kravitz?
Question, the $50 cart delivery fee, is that included in the initial fees? Like, for example, the 80 meter for 81.90, does that include a $50 fee or is that an additional cost?
Go ahead, Mr. Brooks. I asked the same question of him earlier.
Through you, Mayor Martin, the $50 delivery fee is only for deliveries after the cart implementation. So when you're looking at the schedule of fees for each cart, say, for example, the 80-liter cart at $81.90, that does not include a $50 delivery fee. That includes a $6 delivery fee because that's being mass shipped with the 5,800 carts, other carts that are going out. The $50 fee is for our solid waste department to hand deliver those bins after the implementation date of the program.
Okay, I had assumed that. Jeff, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Marks?
Not so much a question, but there's been a lot of discussion to get to this point, pros and cons of us taking the garbage in. I'd just like to point out, in case some people haven't paid attention, we've got a couple of municipalities to the east of us who've recently gone out for tender, and I believe the increases in their waste collection is somewhere 47, 48% each, in that range anyway. And I just want to point out to the public, the ones that are listening, staff have done a tremendous job. They've looked ahead. There's going to be some wrinkles. There's going to be some little stress implementing this, but we've made the right decision. And I just want to point that out. Jeff, you should be taking a bow.
Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Marks. Yes, and I know there will be glitches and there'll be little things to iron out as we proceed, but certainly cost-wise, this was a wise decision. Would you call the vote then, Diane?
Read the motion.
I'm sorry, read the motion and then call the vote, please.
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Fair, that report ICS 1321 fees and charges bylaw update waste management be received as information, and that council approve the 2021 waste management fees as per report ICS 1321, and further that staff be directed to bring forward an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw for council's consideration.
You may call the vote now.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Krebitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Thank you. And now ICS 1421, engineer appointment for the oil drain. Anyone have any questions on this report? Seeing none, would you read the motion, please?
The resolution reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that the Council of the Municipality of Central Elgin appoint Brandon Widner, Spreed Associates Limited, to prepare a report under Section 78 of the Ontario Drainage Act respecting the oil drain as per report ICS 1421.
Thank you. Would you call the vote?
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Krebitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Thank you. Now the Director of Finance, Financial Services, and this is the sole source for the Colburn Street lighting in Port Stanley. You've read the report. Does anyone have any questions on this one? Councillor Rowe.
Madam Mayor, not so much a question of the source. It's just, I've been asked numerous times how many light posts there are and if they are going to be able to hold the same flags and flowers that are out there today, if it could possibly be answered.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't have the number of poles in front of me. They'll roughly follow the same alignment as the existing poles, and they will be the same poles you see south of this project on Main Street, south of Bridge Street. So they will be able to accommodate flower pots and flags.
Thanks.
Gonna be spending a lot more Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Rowe.
No, I would just say I will reach out later to get the number of poles. They seem to be very curious.
Thank you. And it certainly means we're going to be spending a lot more on flowers than watering because we put the hanging things in Sparta as well now. So. Have you read the motion? No, read the motion, please.
Yeah, the motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Wynne, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that the Council of the Municipality of Central Elgin approve the sole source of Colburn Street lighting, Port Stanley to Earth Holdings, Inc. in the amount of $226,670 plus all applicable taxes as per report DFS 0721.
Thank you. Call the vote, please.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes,
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Thank you. Now, Director of Fire Rescue Services, FSO 421, the monthly alarm activities report. Does anyone have any questions on this? If not, would you read the motion, please?
Motion reads, moved by Councillor Wynne, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that the Council of the Municipality of Central Elgin receive report FSO 421, March 2021 monthly alarm activities as information.
Call the vote, please.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
yes,
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
Resolution carries.
thank you. Now we're moving to Director of Asset Management and Development Services. And the first one, AMDS 1221, 44400 Talbot Line. We are discussing this in closed session as well, so we will not discuss that at this time. We'll do that once we come out of closed. We'll finish that off. Councillor Fair?
I was just curious, it was submitted to the public, the information was given to the public. I would have anticipated that they would have expected to watch it. Do you think it's really appropriate to move it to behind closed doors and eliminate the public at this point?
They'll be seeing the full thing when we come out of closed session, but there are some legal issues that have to be discussed in closed session first. And now to the next report, 1321, a monthly building report. Any questions or comments on this one? Now, would you read the motion, please?
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that Council receive report AMDS 1321, March 2021 monthly building report as information.
Would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
yes,
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Thank you. We're now moving on to bylaws, and did we not put the maps in? I thought that was agreed this morning. We were going to put the maps in, but it doesn't come out. Mine didn't update for some reason.
The maps are attached now, Madam Mayor.
Okay, the maps are attached now. They weren't attached before because they're not required, but just so people could see in the Kokomo one, I'm sorry, bylaw number 5, bylaw 2583.
There's now 5 attachments.
Okay, for some reason mine didn't update. Okay. Do we have any bylaw there that of any concern, Councillor Wynne?
I just have a question with regards to, sorry, I just lost the number. Number 4, the bylaw 2581 with regards to dogs running at large. I've had many calls from people in the Belmont area who have called for this service, but because they can't control the animal that's running at large, nobody will come out. So I'm kind of wondering about the service that we're paying for. I guess if they're not coming out, we're not paying for a call for them to come to Belmont. But I'm just wondering about the service as a whole, because I would never recommend to someone to trap a dog for animal control to come get it. I kind of thought that was the whole point of animal control. But if they're not going to come when someone calls to say that there is a
The report on AMDS 1221 for 44400 Talbot Line site plan. So questions? Deputy Mayor Marks.
Madam Mayor, I would like to make a motion that I would move that we are satisfied with the report and support it.
Okay, now I would like to give Mr. Perrin a chance. I had asked him earlier if he would tell us what the conditions, Councillor Rowe was wondering about, you know, how many conditions there were and the 6 that aren't met. I asked Mr. Perrin if he would give us the details on the 6 that aren't met so that we understand that, because if we say we're satisfied and staff are saying to us, no, we're not, they're not satisfied, we're somewhat ignoring our own official plan and bylaws. So I'm going to ask Mr. Perrin if he would go ahead and report on that, please.
Madam Mayor, just if I may, before I start, just to clarify, when we as the Site Plan Control Committee review a site plan, it's with respect to the terms and conditions that have been identified in the site plan control bylaw and the site plan control criteria. So they're not arbitrary. Staff have a very routine way of looking at site plan applications, and we're consistent as we go through that process. So it's not, you know, staff are, you know, this is just what we think of the day. It's based on council's already predetermined site plan conditions and what is required to be shown on a site plan. So if you like, I will share my screen and show the latest submission and then walk council through what the 6 outstanding items are. So the first one is, when you see around the property, if you can see my hand, this is the actual property line of the subject lands. You'll notice that the existing garage is actually on the Yarmouth Center road allowance. We can't change that. It's a historical condition. However, when we do look at redevelopment of the site, one thing that we did note, that the wood privacy fence that's already been installed is actually encroaching well out onto the municipal property. So as staff, we're not in the position to be able to approve a site plan that shows a boundary fence or a wood privacy fence not on the subject lands. And that occurs not only on the Yarmouth Center road allowance, but it also occurs to the property to the north, which is owned by a private property owner, where my hand is going across the screen. So that's the first item. The second item that was identified is the property owner has placed concrete blocks out along Yarmouth Center Road to block off the width of the driveway that was previously constructed, and those concrete blocks are on municipal property, and as a result we cannot approve those because actually they're a liability to the municipality as they are a structure on our road allowance. So if they were to remain there and a vehicle went off the road, that is a liability to the municipality. So I would bring that to council's attention as well. If those structures were moved back onto private property, then that would not be a concern of the Site Plan Control Committee. That's the second item. The third item is this area of the road allowance has already been, or previously has been surfaced with gravel. The site plan that was submitted on the last submission had a small area here that is to remove the driveway and topsoil and reseed. Staff and the committee's response was that this entire area should have gravel removed and topsoil and reseeded because it's not a driveway access and there's no need for it to be left in gravel. The next item that we identified was the sign that has been placed back up on the property. We are questioning whether or not it has approval from the MTO, as MTO does regulate signs and structures even on private property adjacent to the provincial highway. So we asked for clarification on that. The other requirement that we have for site plan control, the municipality has, is to show all services on the property. It shows a approximate area of a septic bed, but the question that we raised is, are there services, water, electrical? We know there's electrical to both of these buildings because there's light showing on the exterior of both. We're just asking for the location of those utilities to be shown on the plan. That includes electrical, if there's water services, or sanitary services to those buildings as well. The area that's hatched in red was identified on the site plan application, or sorry, identified on this last site plan. And it is shown in the legend as, if you just bear with me, it shows solely for commercial purposes. And that's shown in the red hatch pattern, and with a commercial coverage of 33.5%. Back in 2019, through discussion with the applicant and their legal counsel, there was a number of 35% of the property to be used for commercial purposes. And Mr. Gibson can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was also reflected in the zoning amendment that was brought forward and agreed to at the board, at the tribunal rather. So when you look at this, this area is identified for commercial purposes. I'd also draw a note that actually, as recent as 5:40 this afternoon, there's actually cars in the compound that are parked outside of that area that's identified for commercial right up to the fence out on Yarmouth Center Road. This area to the northeast, north of the existing workshop, it's identified as a gravel surface, and it's also identified as truck parking. And when you go out and look at the use of that area, there's actually commercial trailers and vehicles parked on that property, or that property section of the property is used for those purposes. So that's what we were seeking clarification on, is in fact this for commercial purposes? And if it is, then why is it identified as truck parking? And secondly, is there really a need to have it as a gravel surface in light of all, gravel surface creates more runoff? And that was one of the concerns that was raised by the neighboring properties in the past, where there was water surface drainage leaving the property going onto their property. So that was those are the 6 items that we have most recently addressed from the site plan submission that we received on March 17th. So that's why the committee is recommending not approving it. We definitely have a concern with the encroachments on lands other than those owned by the applicant. And there is some contradiction with respect to what they're proposing for commercial use as per the LPAT tribunal decision on the zoning, and what's being portrayed on the plan, and even moreover, how the property is being used and not complying to the plan that was submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. One comment or question I would have is, I was on council when that garage that is encroaching on the road allowance was applied for, and they said it was for personal use, and they're showing here that it's not for commercial. How did it end up on the road allowance?
It's not.
No, the garage that was applied for personal use is this workshop at the back.
Oh, okay.
This historically, that the structure has been in that location for decades.
Thank you. Sorry. Comments or questions, please?
Fiona,
Go ahead, Fiona.
through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Perrin. Has there been, or what is, or has there been any explanation as to why they haven't met any of the site plan conditions?
Not to staff.
So the request keeps going out, but nothing comes back.
The email was sent to the applicant's legal counsel. We received the plan on March 17th. We responded on March 20th, and we've yet to hear anything back.
Follow up, if I can.
Go ahead.
As Mayor Martyn said, I was on council last term when this originally came up, and I guess this is my question with regards to it from last term, was that it seemed to be the same thing. The information that our municipality required when this, when the property, I guess, hit our radar, we were having the same issues. Am I right in that? That this seems to be a common theme, that the information we require with regards to this site plan, we still haven't been able to satisfy, or they still haven't been able to satisfy in 6 years?
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Mark. I'm sorry, Mr. Perrin, you wanted to respond to Councillor Wynn first?
Well, the only answer I can give you is we met in September of 2019 for the first time with the property owner's legal counsel with the site plan control committee. There was a plan provided at that point. We responded back with the deficiencies, and we are here, 18 months later, 16 months later, was still not a plan that's been have those items identified or addressed.
I have
Mr.
a third
Gibson?
question when I can get back in the rotation again, please.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson, you wanted to respond to that as well?
And I think in fairness to the owner, while the complaints, there may have been some similarity in the complaints from the previous term that you referenced. It was that complaint that I think originated the application for the rezoning. So in fairness, it hasn't always been a site plan problem. There were use complaints, and that, I think, in fairness to the owner, that's what prompted the application for the rezoning, which led to the appeal, which led to the decision, which required the site plan.
Yes, no, and you've just brought it all back for me. Thank you. I do have another, but again, when I can get back into the rotation, I have another question.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Marks, I believe, had his hand up.
Madam Mayor, I did make a motion, and rather than prolonging this, I could say a lot of things, but like I say, I am satisfied. I'd move the motion. If there's a seconder, I'm ready to have a vote.
Is there a seconder for Deputy Mayor Marks' motion? Councillor Fair?
Karen.
I'm sorry,
Second,
Karen?
Tom. Sorry, yeah, second Tom.
I do,
Councillor Fair, you wish to speak?
yes, all I wanted to say is, I believe Mr. Neville has been trying to follow I guess it seems funny that it's okay to put a building on the road property, but it's not okay to follow the line of the front of the building in order to sort of protect it. It seems funny that the line from the front of the building is on the road, The fence is to protect the building, which is right there. The building's been there for decades, but we're quibbling because he's trying to protect the front of his property of a building that was approved and has been there for decades. I know he was putting those blocks in line with the face of the building in good faith, thinking that he was fine on that because that is his building and he's protecting and putting his property line right across in front of it, which makes logical sense. It doesn't make sense that we would have a road going up to the building, then turn quickly and go around the building and then come back in. It makes sense to put it right along the face line of the property. So I think he's done everything he could to meet his standards.
You're saying that something that had happened many, many years ago, an error that had happened, should be continued by allowing him to continue taking over road allowance, more areas? I have a hard time with that one, I must admit. Mr. Barron, you wanted to respond.
Well, my response would be, it's still on municipal property and it's still the concrete blocks still constitute a liability to the municipality. So if someone goes off the road and hits the concrete blocks, it doesn't matter about the building, it matters about the concrete blocks. And we knowingly, as a municipality, approve the concrete blocks to be placed on our property. And I believe we've had this discussion with council previously about the high regard that municipalities are held to with respect to liability. So if we knowingly allow, and in this case, approve a structure to be placed on municipal property and someone hits it and suffers bodily injury, and even if the individual, there was an extenuating circumstance, the municipality only has to be held 1% liable. We pay 100% of the cost. So as staff, we cannot recommend that be approved. We would not be doing our job as municipal staff if we recommended approval of that.
Deputy Mayor Marks, you're next, and then Councillor Kravitz.
How far do the blocks need to be moved back to be compliant? You know, this is part of my concern. And Mr. Perrin, I really appreciate getting this. If we had have heard, if I had have learned, I'm only trying to mediate and make a happy ending for this. If I knew these shortcomings, I'd have went to Mr. Neville and say, move the bloody things back. How much do they need to be moved back?
Mr. Perrin?
Madam Mayor, actually the March 20th email did ask Mr. Neville to move the blocks back onto his own property.
Were they not moved? Maybe not far enough. Were they not moved? Sure they were.
If they were moved, I can tell you they're not on their own property because I visited the site this afternoon at 5:40.
How much more do they need? How much more do they?
Mr. Neville has access to this exact same plan, so he would be able to determine where his property line is.
How much more do they need to be moved back?
I don't have a survey. I have this site plan, and I would suggest they need to be moved back another probably 2.5 meters back.
Councillor Kravitz, you had a question, and then we'll get to Councillor Wynn.
I just wanted to make a comment on those blocks. I believe Mr. Neville did attempt to move the blocks back from the original plan, the original location as shown on the site plan, but the only problem is the site plan still shows the blocks on municipal property. So the blocks have to be removed from the site plan on the municipal, on the site plan. They can't be shown on the site plan being on municipal property, because if that's the case, we're approving them being there. But I don't think it's at this point we need to be, running back to the tribunal to say he hasn't complied to everything. He's tried. And another issue that I have is the blocks were put there because we thought we had it resolved in dealing with Mr. Neville to make his access smaller. And if I look back into the report, there's a email from the Ministry of Transportation regarding the size of the opening. And I'm having a hard time reading this OPSD 301020 rule entrances to road and earth cuts. because everything I see on here shows a 5-meter minimum on that plan. And in the report, the gentleman says that it must be under 5 meters. What the gentleman from the MTO, or lady, the Jody Lucent, is contradicting what I'm seeing in the plan. I don't know if I'm reading it wrong, and it's something we asked to have those stones put there, and there was something to meet the stipulations of the site plan control group. The other things like the lighting's been dealt with. The wire, where the underground wires, there's a lot of things that we're asking the site plan. Yeah, sure, it needs to be done. I'm not disputing that we need a proper site plan for this. And the site plan, our staff is looking out for nobody but the municipality. And I 100% agree that it's in the best for the municipality that the site plan is done properly. But I don't think that we should be running back at this point. It's a legitimate business in the municipality. I don't think we need to be wasting so much time on this. We've been wasting years and years now on the same issue. The appellant, he doesn't even, it's not even relevant to him anymore. They were cleaning up the fence line last week. The son, he was cutting trees on the fence line. They were cleaning the fence, like they're trying. They dragged the block back. I don't know why we're spending this amount of time on this issue. It's a business within our municipality, and we should be thankful we have businesses in our municipality. I'm having a hard time with this. I don't want to go against staff's recommendation, because staff is, I 100% agree that staff is right about the site plan. We can't allow those blocks. There's other areas in the municipality that we had people remove stones on the road allowance. It's not a safe practice, and it's not something that we should be, approving. And I'm not going to approve that, but on the same token, I'm not going to approve going back to the Ontario Municipal Board, the OMB, that proceeding. I'm not willing to go back to the OMB at this point saying, sorry, we're not complying, shut the business down. We need to have a better resolve to this. We need to have a little common sense here. And I'm just going to stop at that point, let somebody else ramble. Thank you.
Mr. Shipway would like to speak.
Yeah, I'd just like to jump in and look at this from a more holistic perspective, I guess. So council established a site plan control area. Council established a site plan control committee that has responsibilities to report to council. This one is more complicated because of the involvement in LPAT. That is what has happened here. I understand Mayor Marks has put a motion on the floor. I think it'd be remiss just to comment from staff's perspective that if council goes ahead and accepts a deficient site plan, it's going to cause issues for the municipality moving forward, in that you've accepted a deficient site plan. If council is not prepared to refuse the application, I think the less problematic, but still problematic, solution may be to further defer the application. But I think, we just need to be clear here that the municipality is not dragging out. The applicant needs to take action to satisfy the conditions, however minor they may be. So it's still problematic that this process has taken so long and continues to need to be drawn out, but it would create significant issues for the municipality going forward if you approve a deficient site plan, because the municipality approves a number of site plans and you're bringing into question the validity of one of your backbone bylaws. So I would just offer that as a holistic perspective for you to consider, because it would be remiss if you move forward with this and we didn't, as staff, just communicate that. And again, staff are happy to carry out the direction of council. We just want to make sure that you're aware of all the possible implications of those decisions before those are made.
Councillor Wynne, you wish to ask another question?
Yes. So with regards to these 6 deficiencies, and let's just take the sign with regards to MTO as an example. So we accept this site plan and there is an issue with that sign with regards to MTO. How does that then affect us? The stones in question that Mr. Perrin had said, if somebody did happen to hit those stones and we had agreed to this deficient site plan, how does that then affect us going forward? And again, if these are easy, if we should be accepting this site plan because these 6 deficiencies are really easily met and can just be done, why have they not just been done and easily met to satisfy the site plan and the committee to move forward so that our decision in approving it is even simpler? If someone could answer that one for me.
Mr. Perrin, do you wish to speak?
I can't speak to why they haven't been done. We've responded back to the applicant on 3 occasions now with deficiencies, and it's not a complex site. If council goes back in your agenda package for this evening, you approved a site plan agreement bylaw on a site that was much more complex than this. And it had 4 apartment buildings on it. And that took a fraction of the time of this site. So I can't speak to why it hasn't been done.
Liability was my issue too, with respect to these deficiencies. And as I said, with regards to the stones and the sign, is there liability issues that we have to deal with? And I believe I had said at one point when this originally had come up 6 years ago, is that I think we want to be careful that we don't become the municipality that you come and beg forgiveness from us instead of seeking approval. Thank you. And I don't know, I'm probably not going to get the liability issue answered. So thanks.
Well, I believe, yeah, Steve did say that earlier, and he can speak again to that, that we are, you know, we know about joint and several liability, and if we're found in the least bit liable, we will be paying 100% of the costs.
Yeah, well, I have my insurance hat on right now, and that's where I'm thinking.
Right. The issue of the blocks is one of risk. What you have beyond the approval process, if you have impediments on the road allowance which create a risk, then your duty to the public and to users of the roadway would require you to remove the impediments. That's why if people build gateways on the road allowance, we require them to be removed. If there are stones is usually the main one. So it's a matter of risk. If there is someone who leaves the travel portion of the road and hits that and suffers an injury or property loss, then if we have specifically approved the placement of those impediments, then you are looking at a clear liability situation, and joint and several would be right into play. Now, joint and several simply means that the injured party can come to any one of a number of responsible parties and demand payment of the full amount of their losses. The municipality could then go to any other defendant or responsible party and attempt to recover the appropriate amount. But if we have approved their placement, you'd have a hard time going back to the property owner and saying, okay, even though we approved them, you've got you have to reimburse us for part. We could, sure, you can have indemnity clauses and things like that, but it's certainly something that I would recommend against having those blocks on the road allowance. And I don't think that, I don't hear anybody saying that they should be there or be allowed to be there. I think that they have to go.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Deputy Mayor Marks and then Councillor Rowe.
I have a motion that's been moved in second. I have listened to the wisdom from our CAO. I'd be prepared to withdraw that and ask to defer this. I don't think the issues that are outstanding are insurmountable. And I'd certainly commit to sitting down with the parties involved and trying to sort this out. I assumed when those blocks were there, and I was dealing with a couple other councillors, with Mr. Leach. To my knowledge, he said they were fine. To my knowledge, they weren't on the line. And I thought they're moved back. If they need to be moved back further, I'll make a point, because I want this to be settled, because I am pretty much satisfied, but I don't want it to be illegal. And I'll go back and argue like hell to Mr. Neville to move him back if that's what it takes. So I'd be willing to withdraw my motion if we can defer this with the intent that we come up to some satisfactory legal solution. This has gone on for a lot of years. There's personalities involved. I get it. But Mr. Councillor Kravitz had some pretty good points. This is a legitimate business. We are in a pandemic. There's some things there that he was stalling. He was not stalling. He could not get the consultant. I won't go on to all those things. There's ample ammunition on both sides. I'm only looking for a solution to this that we can all live with.
One question I would have, Mr. Perrin, on that, or even Mr. Gibson. We know the stones would have to be moved back. Would we also require the wooden fence that is on road allowance to be moved back? Is that a liability as well? That's the other one I would be curious about. Mr. Perrin?
I would suggest that we would ask for the fence to be moved back as well. If not, we will be having wood fences put out on municipal property all over the municipality, which will encumber our operations. And the road allowance is not just for municipal use, it's for utilities as well. So in the interest of not setting a precedent and approving a fence to be constructed on the municipal road allowance, we would recommend to council that that fence should be installed on the private property line.
Thank you. Councillor Farrer, you wish to speak?
I was just going to say, if he just removed it, and heck with a fence.
I think he put that went in, that fence, when he expanded his business. He was originally running a small towing operation there. And the problem with the neighbors came when he expanded the business and built the fence and graveled the area so that the water was draining onto theirs. It was much larger business than was allowed at the time. And it wasn't, I mean, if it was zoned residential, which it was, that was meant you could have a small home operation there with just the owner, the person living in the house, working at the business. But when he expanded it, that was when the complaints came. And that's what triggered all of this, was the expansion. And I don't know with the fence. Mr. Perrin, you were going to mention the fence, so go ahead, respond.
The fence is actually there to fence in a vehicle storage compound. So, you know, make no bones about it. Staff understand, you know, that this is a local business. They're well respected. That being said, the property is being used for a certain purpose, and it's a vehicle storage compound, and there are vehicles stored there. It should have some actually security around that compound, I would suggest. That's up to Mr. Neville. It would appear that's required because the site plan has a chain link fence on his property to create that security around the compound. So I'm assuming that the compound needs to be fenced. We would still take the approach that it should have some type of screening from the adjacent properties and vehicles traveling down Sunset. That's a common requirement of the municipality on site plan control when there's storage and vehicles stored. We have other storage facilities in the municipality that have outside storage. The area is fenced with screening to prevent that site from motoring public and adjacent landowners.
I assume you didn't mean Sunset. I assume you meant Yarmouth Center.
Sorry, Yarmouth Center Road. Yeah.
Yes. Councillor Rowe.
I was just going to say, I can appreciate how difficult this situation is for all concerned. I do also appreciate Deputy Mayor Marks offering his services, I will say, to the property owner to figure out how to resolve this, but I cannot in good conscience approve a site plan that it has any deficiencies at all. It would do the municipality a disservice, I believe, now and in the future. So if there is the opportunity, I would make a motion to defer this item and give the property owner with staff, with anyone on council that is wishing to attend and work with the property owner to figure out how we get to a site plan that actually makes sense for all.
Second that.
Councillor Fair.
I would agree with that too. I would rather move from an antagonistic approach to a cooperative coaching approach and work this out. That would be much better than just a lot of hard lines.
Mr. Gibson.
I like how my name is right after hard lines, but I appreciate the efforts that councillors may seek to facilitate some sort of resolution. I would only ask that councillors also consider that they are the decision makers and not to lose sight of that fact.
Now, I'm sorry, Councillor Wynne, did you second Councillor Rowe's motion?
Yeah, but that was before Mr. Gibson spoke.
Okay, I wasn't certain if I heard that. That was all.
So that's my only only caution is that that council is the ultimate decision maker.
You're right.
Until
Mr. Perrin.
regular meeting of the first.
Staff are more than willing to meet with the property owner to discuss these. We've offered that. The process whereby staff have been dealing with their legal counsel was set by the property owner. We're more than happy to meet with Mr. Neville on site and discuss the deficiencies that remain on the site plan. We want to get it resolved as much as Mr. Neville does, I'm sure, and council. I've probably known Mr. Neville probably longer than anyone on council.
So it sounds like we are basically in agreement with the idea of deferring this because we certainly don't want liability and we want to get the site plan, the deficiencies corrected. Mrs. Wilson is trying to draft a motion. Councillor Wynne?
Well, with regards to the motion, if it was to state that that it's deferred based on the applicant meeting at the site with staff, like, can we be that specific with it? Or no, Mr. Gibson always shoots me down.
I would be concerned because we are well aware that the owner has legal counsel, and we should be clear not to interfere with that relationship.
Yeah, it's good we kept you on here for this. and these
Jeez.
questions.
I don't know. It's like
Deputy
an
Mayor
all-time,
Marks.
it's like an all-time high.
You know, I'm trying to seek some middle ground here, but we are dealing in a pandemic with a family's business. And I guess I get a little upset. You know, I don't think he wants to lose his business over a bloody fence. And if the blocks have to be moved back a bit, you know, it's been suggested that the services and whether there's a washroom, et cetera, in there. Let's be very blunt. Walk in the bloody building and see if there is one. There isn't. And if someone wants to have gravel on the ground rather than roses or grass, if someone told me I had to put grass or gravel and I own the property, I tell them what they could do. And I'm getting emotional. I shouldn't, but I want to get a compromise to this and get it behind us. I don't want to pass anything tonight because I think the votes are there that we are satisfied and we could have pushed this through. But I don't want to be doing that and having the legalities hanging there. I want it to be done proper. But I think it's time with it. Any agreement has to have a little give on both sides. I applaud Mr. Perrin with the offer to sit down and look for common ground. I applaud you very much and I appreciate that. And let's try and go that way.
Mr. Shipway wishes to speak.
Yeah, and through you, Madam Mayor, I was just going to comment that given the extension already granted, that if council would consider deferring the report till May 10th meeting of council. So that's like skips one meeting but comes back thereafter. Given these deficiencies, that should be more than enough time if an applicant is serious about addressing them to address them. And I just want to clarify, you know, one thing. It's not that staff aren't looking for a compromise. It's that council has set a policy that staff do not have leeway in deciding to follow or not follow with the site plan control bylaw. So that's where we're coming from on that. And Mr. Perrin's offer isn't just an offer in this situation. It's the standard process that the site plan committee and Mr. Perrin will meet with all applicants. So this is very standard on the municipal side of this. The applicant needs to come forward and address those deficiencies. And, you know, May 10th should be plenty of time. And then those deficiencies would have to be addressed, you know, prior to the 3rd for staff to draft the report and come back. But that should be plenty of time to address these deficiencies.
Mr. Kravitz, you wanted to speak?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So Diane, would you like to read the motion that you have written and we'll see then we can see if the two movers and seconders agree. Go ahead.
Mayor Martin, just for clarification, Deputy Mayor Marks put a motion on the table and Councillor Fair seconded it. Is it my understanding that both Deputy Mayor Marks and Councillor Fair are withdrawing that at this time?
Yes, yes.
Correct.
So I've prepared a motion and my understanding is Councillor Rowe moved it and Councillor Wynn seconded.
Yes.
Okay, the motion reads that the Council of the Municipality of Central Elgin receive report AMDS 1221 site plan application re 4440 Talbot Line, and further that Council defer consideration of the site plan application respecting 44400 Talbot Line until the regular meeting of Council dated Monday, May the 10th, 2021.
Yes.
Okay, and it's councils, I mean, and staff understand that we're hoping that they will work with Mr. Neville and get this resolved, and that our liabilities will be removed, et cetera. So everyone understands the motion? Would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynn,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. Minutes of out of the closed session minutes.
Motion reads moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Wynn, that the minutes of the closed session meeting of council dated Monday, March the 22nd, 2021 be adopted.
Call the vote, please.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Counselor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Counselor Wynne,
Yes.
Counselor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Resolution carries.
The information, just do we have to? we don't- That's all coming out of closed session then. So would you read the motion to adjourn?
Yes, the motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Counselor Wynne, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that the regular meeting of council dated Monday, April the 12th, 2021 be adjourned at 9:51 PM. And the next regular planning meeting of council be scheduled for Monday, April the 26th, 2021.
Call the vote, please.
Counselor Cook,
Yes.
Counselor Cravitz,
Yes.
Counselor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Counselor Wynne,
Yes.
Counselor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Gibson, for hanging in there with us.